call to order Schenectady City Council Committee meeting for Monday, August 18th, 2025. And the first committee is Public Safety.
So I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee. We have 4 items on the agenda tonight, the first of which is the grant award for the GTSC Child Passenger Safety Program.
All right, good evening. Lieutenant Scott Howard with Schenectady Police Department. Sorry, I'm taking up some of your space here.
Okay, who's this?
Just trying to organize my paperwork here. All right. So, the first item up is a grant award for the Governor Traffic Safety Committee for the Child Passenger Safety Program. The police department's been awarded $6,200 in state funding to participate in the statewide Child Passenger Safety Program. It's an initiative focused to ensure that children are transported safely in vehicles, in short. The money is going to be used to promote the proper use of car seats, help people install them, put on events for free installations, provide car seats, education, things of that nature. Again, money comes from the GTSC in partnership with Department of Motor Vehicles, and there is no match from the city.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Here, Ms. Porter.
So we talked about this a little bit at the committee, at the legislative conference. So right now, we don't know how many seats this buys, but we have some left over. You want to just talk about what?
Correct. So this is the first time we're actually, as a police department, getting this grant. We were in partnership with another organization that received it for us, so we still have a trailer full of, well, it was full of car seats. I don't know exactly how many car seats this is going to purchase. I know they give them to us at a discounted rate, so we'll have plenty. We haven't ran out in the 3 years that I've known about it, so ultimately what we're going to do is that money's going to go mostly towards events. We'll kind of piggyback some of the citywide events that are happening, set up a tent, offer our services, what have you. So.
Mrs. Froh.
Okay, so this sounds like an amazing thing here. Just a quick question. I don't know if this is the appropriate way to communicate some of this, but I've seen, and this is just online, I don't think that we've had this issue here locally, but like where parents are in the hustle and bustle of things of leaving their kids in cars. I wonder if this would be an opportunity where we could do some prevention work around those things, just messaging for people. I don't know, but did you see like that as something that fits in with this, or?
I haven't seen the education materials. I didn't even catch up.
No, I know.
I haven't seen the material that comes with the education part of it. But I can obviously talk to our traffic division, the lieutenant sergeant, and see if they can incorporate that with it. Obviously, that's a great concern. Yeah. I don't want to see that happen. So.
Thank you.
Ms. Porter.
Yes, so you said that you attached to other citywide events. Does the police department put on any events on its own just so that people can come there for that purpose and that purpose only?
Since we've never had this grant before, no.
Well,
But we've had.
but you have car seats before, so how was that communicated to the public? How did you do that?
To be honest, most of the time it was the hospitals were in contact with us. We hadn't, the program hadn't been very well established. We had some certified installers, but most of the time it was just people reaching out to us, most of the time through hospitals. They're letting us know, they have an individual who just had a baby, they're in need, or people are contacting us preemptively, like their due date is not too far away and they're going to need a car seat installed. So prior to this, I'm not aware that we had any events, but it's a good recommendation for the traffic division, and I will certainly get back to them on that.
If we got a trailer full.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The second item is DHS Tactical Team Grant Program.
All right. Excuse me. The second grant that the City of Schenectady Police Department has been awarded is a $75,000 federal grant through Department of Homeland Security. This money is provided to help improve and develop tactical teams throughout the area for the purchase of equipment and anything that kind of helps support their needs towards counterterrorism efforts. This is the second year in a row we've been awarded this. There's lots of criteria that goes into meeting the standards to qualify for this, which our current commander has gone to great lengths and spent countless hours ensuring that we are in compliance and meeting the standards. So there's a lot on that end. So this is it's, for lack of a better term, it's a nice reward on the back end to be able to purchase new equipment.
Thank you. Ms. Porterfield?
You said that this is for tactical teams throughout the area. Is this only going to be for the city of Schenectady? The
The
actual,
$75,000?
to use only within the city?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing seeing none, can I have a motion?
So moved.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item is the Explosive Detection K-19 Grant Program. Lieutenant, sorry.
All right. This is also another Department of Homeland Security grant. We've been awarded $32,000 in federal funding to obtain an explosive detection canine. It's for an explosive detection canine team grant program. So with this money, we'll be able to obtain, purchase an explosive detection canine, train them. The other money is going towards training tools and any of the material needs for the dog, collars, harnesses, all those things. Some of the money is also going to go towards backfilling for overtime, I believe. I have to look, just to cover the officer while they're away or so have you. We currently don't have an explosive detection canine. We only have a drug canine. So one of the benefits of this dog is that there's a lot of public safety surrounding it. They not only detect explosives, but also guns. They're going to be trained in tracking, so if people flee from us that we're looking for, or someone committed burglary, what have you, and they run, we can use the dog. They're a great tool. They, in partnership, I know with the Schenectady County, who has these dogs, they do sweeps around all the major events prior to the event, during the event, and so have you, looking for any bombs that have been placed prior to. So there's a lot of benefits to having a canine.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Ms. Porterfield?
I just want to point out that he did, he said that the overtime was in there, so it is listed, there's a budget attached. So we see that they did give us that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Ritzky?
Where would you purchase the canine, and what's the typical training time where the canine can be assigned to?
Was the first question where?
Yeah.
So there's multiple organizations, breeders, if you will, around the country for the most part that do this. It's all about timing. So you kind of find who has one when you're available to purchase. I know I believe they have one lined up and with a backup, just in case things fall through. But they have to catch the dog at the right age and the right point of their life. The training for it, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's 6 months. It's, I believe the state police hosts it, so it's a pretty intensive training.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the last agenda item is going to be an update by the Civilian Police Review Board. Mr. Pumphrey. Okay. It's like the last name's covered.
Deneen Palmetier, Chair of the Schenectady CPRB. First up, I guess we are to talk about the cases that have been reviewed. I put the cases in a whole listing on everybody's chair, that way you would have them. To date, there's been 8 cases that have been reviewed. This is only through June. I did not do July or August, but I'm not that far ahead of things. But January through June, there are 8 cases reviewed, 10 violations, 4 policy, 3 procedure, 1 use of force, 2 discourtesy. I think the important thing to realize here and to note is that although there weren't complaints, there were 2 other sustained policy violations that once the officers had reviewed, OPS had reviewed the case and the camera footage, they found 2 policy violations which they then brought against the police officers. And there was 1 other sustained policy violation. I know you haven't had time to review those, but if you have any questions, I'm open to answering them.
Oh, Ms. Booker, sorry.
It's okay. So I know that there was some concerns about having a quorum, so have you missed any meetings in this timeframe since the beginning of the year, you're not able to make the quorum?
We have not. We have not, but it is part of the ordinance discussion that we would like to change in the proposed ordinance at one point, because currently, the way the ordinance is written, there are supposed to be 9 members, and regardless of the amount of members, there's still a quorum of 5, which is sometimes problematic. Currently, we have 7 members, but one of them is a holdover, right? We have an opening, the NAACP has an opening, and Sun turned in their membership, and we're waiting for someone from the city to be appointed. The NAACP's nominee did not come through because they did not reside in the city of Schenectady, which is part of the ordinance.
It didn't go through from the mayor's office?
It did not, but part of our ordinance is that they must live within the city limits. So,
Thank you. Ms. Becker?
So you said the quorum is still 5, regardless of whether you hit the 9, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to
so when we
clarify. I
have 6
understand.
members and somebody's on vacation,
Yep.
we're calling around making sure everyone will be there. And we hold the meeting if someone's a few minutes late, half hour, whatever. It's harder.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the
Ms. Booker?
the code calls for 9.
Yeah.
So,
Well, because the quorum calls for 5 regardless.
well, the code calls for 9, so 5 would be a quorum.
Yes.
We're going to talk a little bit more
Yeah,
about your-
if you want something
No,
else.
No, I want to know if today you're going to talk about trying to change that, or is that coming on later discussion?
I think that was part of the ordinance changes that we wanted to also, I think there were 3 things. What's happening? What have we been doing? Ordinance suggestions that are not being brought today, but should just be discussed, right? Is that, okay. So I kicked it off with, here's the status of the cases that we've reviewed. Next up, I had listed just a list of activities that the CPRB has been up to and doing. It's kind of just an overview of what's happening with us. One of the things that's also January through June, I'm going to jump to what we have been up to because I think it's pretty exciting. January through June, we did a lot of work on trying to come up with what the CPRB, what were our goals, right? We're supposed to be out in the community, we're supposed to be doing this, we're supposed to be meeting the community where they are. And currently, the way it was set up, we are not doing that, right? We're not going out, we're not doing this. So first thing is, how do we market ourselves and to the community? So since then, we have had a logo approved by Corporation Council. It is up there behind you on the little runner that goes with our tables and our tablecloths. We've had pens, magnets, we're looking at business cards. We now have an email address that is chair@schenectadycprb@gmail.com. It'll transfer all the way down to whoever happens to be in charge, just in case they want to file a complaint and do so by email. And we're hoping to take this sort of show on the road. We have developed a PowerPoint pitch that talks about the organization and what we're doing. That has been presented to one organization thus far. What I did find interesting, and just for statistics, one of the things that we talk about is the CPRB and its role as it relates to other organizations and cities. One of the things we hear, the key limitations are that we don't have subpoena power and a variety of other things. But I likened our size, 67,000 population. Most people compare us to the Albany CPRB, right? It's a neighboring town. But Mount Vernon also has advisory-only CPRB. Poughkeepsie, Binghamton, and Utica have naturally no formal oversight board for the police review board. Just a statistic that I think is interesting when people talk about the CPRB and our role. Any questions?
And I'll just a last and natural point of discussion, would you mind just talking about just references to sending members on consecutive years to the NACOL?
Right. So we're a member of the NACOL by ordinance, and this year we have 2 members going to the conference. Last year I attended the conference, and part of, as chair, what we've tried to do is make sure that different people have the opportunity to attend the conference for educational purposes. This year there's 2 going that have never been before. Keith St. John and Harlene Andrus are attending this year. In addition, right, we're trying to get our marketing material up and running so that we can get out there into the community and meet people where they are.
Ms. Bordeaux?
Just briefly looked at your, the brochure. So I thought that there were more than, I only see 2 places that, with the police department, which people are filing against, and the office of the mayor. There are no other places that people can file a complaint?
Well, getting the complaint form seems to be difficult. Not everybody seems to have exact hours in their building, in their buildings, right? So the library doesn't seem to have the complaint form, and until it is revised, which the revisions have been sent back to the police department, and they're supposed to be doing it in Spanish as well, those are the 2 locations where it's easiest to pick up. I mean, supposedly the library is supposed to have them, but they don't. The NAA is supposed to have them, but they don't. The Human Rights Commission is supposed to have them. They don't have hours, regular hours, at the Human Rights Commission.
Doesn't?
Mm-mm.
So it seems to me that we should figure out a way where, like, they're even just there, you can pick them up, like voter registration forms. You don't have to be, like, at the library when they're open, and they're open often.
They are.
You could just pick one up, and just locations where people can actually pick them up, as opposed to us saying it has to be a certain time, because City Hall closes as well. So, and the police department doesn't, they do have that.
Yeah.
But, so I think that it would be probably better to expand where people can get them, even if they go to the county building and the Human Rights Commission itself isn't open, but the county building isn't open, there'd be some place. So I really think we should expand that list. I know it was longer than this, and maybe even people can get it online.
It was longer than that in their other brochure, but then we went back to the basics and read where they were, and they weren't available there. So this is sort of, and by the way, this isn't really final. This is a printout that I did because it's changing constantly, and I don't want to spend the city's money on having brochures printed that are constantly evolving at this point. So I've been printing them out 10 or 20 at a time.
Smart. So I really think that we should consider trying to have them in more locations, that, quite frankly, if people are more comfortable going as opposed to, going to the police department because they're filing a complaint against the police. So that for some people might be a little intimidating.
Yeah.
So if we could figure out places we could just have have them. And is it possible to have them online? Are they online? through the
They
city?
are online. You can still print it down through the city's website and the CPRB's website, which the team here has, the city has been great about keeping updated with all of our new things as they come up. There's a form there. The form is being updated though as we speak. We were just doing, I'm sorry, Councilman, when did we sent it over to the chief with some revisions?
I can look at the date, yes.
I think it was June 9th. So we're waiting for those revisions, and then it's going to be translated into Spanish.
Okay, and people can mail these in as well, so I think maybe
Yes.
we should note that as well, because maybe that will take away some of the, but if we could look at, Councilmember, some ways to have in other locations, I think that would be extremely helpful. Not that we're getting that many complaints, but just broadening where people can pick up and then file.
Absolutely.
I think-
Ms. Patrick?
Well, can I just ask, so for example, the library, I mean, they don't have them, but do they not have them because the thing is under revision right now? Is that why?
I don't think they have them, and we can talk about this in the ordinance, is the fact that the CPRB is all volunteer, and we've been trying to update these. So getting them distributed and out and about and updated has not been, it's something that we're doing on our volunteer time.
I'd be happy to help with the libraries if you need that.
Great.
When you're ready. I mean, actually, it would just be obviously the ones that are within the city, but unless you wanted them in all the 9 branches, but you can tell me that later, but I'm happy to drop them.
I think
off.
wherever we can meet people where they are, as you mentioned, we don't have a lot of complaints, but is that because there aren't issues or because they don't know that we're there? that's, one of the things that we're hoping that by getting out there and attending community events, they will learn that we're there. Recently, there was enough publicity that someone reached out to me directly to take a complaint, right? We can do that, and it was submitted for review.
And I would just say that that captions the responsive government that I think a lot of us around this table and also within the city just come to expect. Just how do we acknowledge where we are, but also continue to improve our processes. And I believe this is one of the ways that I haven't seen since I've been on the council and been a part of the CPRB. So definitely I appreciate the work that you and the board are currently doing. As you mentioned, I think there are often references to the Albany chapter, some valid and I think for some unsubstantiated reasons, but I appreciate what our city is doing in trying to continue to put forward a positive effort. And I believe that although our complaints may not fully represent where the city is, these types of efforts, these community engagement opportunities, I think that leads some credibility to support some of the findings that we do understand and know. So unless there are any other questions, Mr. Farley?
Yeah, so I just, number one, the referrals, like, so where are the cases that you are getting, like, if you could, and I don't expect you to have this off the top of your head, but like, are you seeing like a lot of referrals coming from agencies or individuals, or how is that working?
Mainly from the individuals doing the report to the police department.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Lemio through the state attorney general's office, right? You can get a complaint there. However, sometimes those have to go through their internal processes to get to us. We recently just reviewed 2 that were a year old that they didn't get to us for a year.
Okay.
So it just takes time if they file it, because you can file a complaint with the attorney general's office against the police department and it will get to us. It just doesn't come as swiftly.
So what happens when someone puts forth a complaint and then the complaint is like founded? Like, what's the next steps?
So based on this, we had, we have a complaint there. I'll just talk to the one case that we had a sustained violation in, and that officer, it went through the unions and the stuff, and he was reprimanded, ended up losing 3 vacation days based on policy violation, right? It's not our place as the CPRB to implement the change behaviors or whatever you want to say that happen, but it does go to the council, the union reps, and everyone to come up with a particular punishment, shall we say.
Okay. And you also said that, like, we're often compared to Albany. Something that you highlighted is that Albany has subpoena power, but we don't have that. But there's also other comparable review boards that don't have any official oversight capacity at all. Was that us not having subpoena power? Is that just how it was written when things were initiated? Is that something that you'd like to see change, or?
So it's interesting, within the ordinance, it talks about the subpoena power and says that we could use the city council to elicit the subpoena power. But it's an interesting contradiction because they call it a double-blind review, and they say, but you should have an investigator. Well, if we hire an investigator, it's not a double-blind review. So I'm not sure how that works within the way the ordinance is currently written.
So it says in the ordinance that you do have subpoena power.
No, it says we could use the city council,
In order
and then the city council could issue a subpoena based upon I think that's the way it's written.
Sure. But if it's written that way, and it's not a true function of how to.
Yeah.
So is that something that the board would like to have? Is direct?
I don't think that they're right currently that we're asking for direct subpoena power. Currently, I think that could be a change if we see the cases increase and there's an issue that comes up. But currently, we're not saying that. And I have to say that OPS is sustaining the violations, and then they're finding their own within their review. And when we ask to go back and review body-worn camera, street cameras, et cetera, they always comply within 30 to 60 days of getting us the redacted camera footage.
In regards to the review of the camera footage, et cetera, who reviews that? The entire body? Who reviews that if you want to review for a case?
It's the entire body is invited.
Okay.
The entire body is invited. The last case we reviewed, 5 of us showed up, so all except for 2.
And then if I can add, definitely a point of clarification is the Office of Professional Standards. They do a sincere job with seeing every complaint through to completion. Lieutenant Butler, which was a part of that as a sergeant, and that's where we've come to develop our professional relationship. But sincerely, the important onus, I think, is put on complainants. Please put valid contact information, because that is sincerely the true means of how that department can get in touch with you to give you updates along the process, and also supply like just a summation or summarization of what's happened. But oftentimes we hear that they're unable to get in contact with some of these individuals. I think it's based on how the complaint form is written, where it does have a very negative connotation to it, where if like you mess up an information or misconvey a detail, that the police department is going to seek like legal ramifications against you, and that's truly not the case. But how you see it is based on where you sit. So wanting to see those revisions, just so it not welcomes complaints, but presents a different view to individuals who truly feel that they were disenfranchised or treated in a negative way. But sincerely, the Office of Professional Standards, they do see these complaints through to completion, and I think in this review, which we can just attach to the meeting if the public would like to see it, if it's appropriate, I think it shows what Ms. Palmatier said. There are cases where complaints have been sustained, and there have been plausible outcomes to the benefit of the community. But if there are no other questions or concerns,
Are we going to quickly, do I just highlight some of the ordinance changes
I
that were?
apologize.
Okay.
To the code.
To the city code, yes. So, based upon the way this was written, and taking into account that this was written back in 2001, right, things have changed. Right? So the board is supposed to have 2 ex officio non-voting members, a member of the public safety commissioner, and a citizen at large appointed by city council. That doesn't happen. So I don't know if it needs to remain.
I thought Ms. Patrick.
Keith
Was it
St.
Mr.
John, I thought Keith St. John was our
St. John?
appointee.
Yes.
He is the city council's
Yes. Yeah.
nominee to the board, but this is an ex officio non-voting member.
That also comes from
Yes,
city council?
that's what it says.
Okay.
Or we have to-
Section 93(4), non-voting members from the public safety commissioner and a citizen at large appointed to the city council, but it's a non-voting member.
Gotcha.
So this person is never?
No.
He doesn't come?
No. As a matter of fact, I looked up his name today because I'm going to invite him to come speak. Oh, well then, that might be why he hasn't shown up.
No, just recently.
Oh,
Just so you.
okay.
Divine.
Mr. Chairman, you can just, with that, as it's written, it's just a matter of appointing another ex officio member to the board.
Right.
You know, it's there, so it's just a matter of doing a resolution at some point, just appointing an ex officio member.
But we were also kind of on the side discussing that the public safety commissioner is also written in there.
Right. We have a public safety commissioner as an ex officio member.
Yes. Do we have a public safety commissioner?
Yes.
I thought, didn't you invite us to something?
He's the public safety commissioner.
But he's still going to be in that role?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay, next was the quorum, which we've quickly addressed that. I think that we need to look at that based upon the number of members that are appointed. It's been taking a while. Right now, just for instance, Sycamore Collaborative, their person was up in February. They were notified in December that this person would be done by February. Sharon has been lovely at staying, but she keeps asking me every month, have they found a member? Have they found a member? And that hasn't happened, and it's August. We're trying to find, we changed the ordinance a bit to allow for the city to appoint someone, but that, we were trying to let them hold on to their seat, but we're getting to the point that they may not be able to hold that seat, that we're going to have to say, city council should appoint someone. But there is already an appointee missing, and that was Sons when they gave up their position. So we already have Sun out there not having someone, and then we have the NAACP's nominee who couldn't step in because of that, and then we'd have Sycamore Collaborative, which would then put us back down to 6.
Ms. Corfield?
So there was also the process where we were talking about having an alternate. So none of these organizations, well, NAACP had an alternate, but since the main person couldn't come, the alternate couldn't be there. So none of the organizations are putting forth an alternate?
It doesn't seem so, based
Okay.
upon the appointments. I've seen the appointment letters, there doesn't seem to be a listing that this other person is part of that, with the exception of the NAACP where they put forth two.
Okay. Let's take a look at that.
So the other part is 9311 says that the board shall encourage and facilitate mediation of any complaint. Well, that hasn't happened. It says that we should have a list of approved mediators and their qualifications. And then 9312 says that we should have the power to independently review complaints. And again, this goes to the subpoena power, but if we have to operate under a double-blind system, that negates one another. So I think there just needs to be a review of the wording and how that is done and what we would like. It calls for an annual independent audit by a consultant selected by the board of all the complaints and their investigations each year. That has not been done either. And then the board shall charge and oversee its paid staff. No. And I know it's not in here because obviously it would be a budgetary item,
Yeah.
but
Supposedly an investigator that would have been a paid staff, but there's no investigator.
right. And then this was interesting, and I don't know if it needs to be reviewed or if it was when it was established, but it says the mayor and the city council shall each appoint 10 Schenectady residents to an advisory committee for an ongoing study and subsequent recommendations to the police review board. I don't know of an advisory.
Ms. Warfield?
I believe that was when they first established it. So I don't know if the wording should explain it better, but that was when it was first established.
Okay.
That's my understanding of that.
Those are the high points of the ordinance changes we'll be kind of reviewing and looking at.
And since we have graciously skirted across budget, any potential conversations, how are you spending down items?
So yeah, so I think last year's budget was $15,000. This year we are sending two board members to the NACOL conference. And obviously we've started the marketing, and Sarah Hughes has been wonderful at getting us the marketing materials. I send her a logo and a link to something, and the next thing I know, stuff arrives at my house. So we have tables and chairs and obviously runners, and we did get 2 sets of everything so that the vice chair, Keith St. John, also has a set of the same types of things at his house, because we weren't sure that there's an appropriate area for us to house this so that anyone could get to it. So we each have a table, tablecloth, runner, pens, magnets. We're looking at cards. We held off on the cards because I wanted it to have just a unified email address on it and not listed to the chair or someone. So those will be next. So I think cost will be the attendance at a variety of events, right? Paying those fees to have tables and tabling and being out in the community.
Ms. Farley?
Do you think that a small stipend would encourage people to participate and do so a little more robustly than what's happening now?
You know, that's always a good question. Probably one that hurts my heart a little is someone who volunteers and believes in volunteerism and the commitment of volunteerism. As a volunteer board, if you commit to it, I would hope that you would meet those commitments. So would it enhance it? It may, but I would, as you look at what we do, I would like to put in place a job description then, before we did so, before we offered a stipend, do a job description that highlights what the person is supposed to be doing as part of the stipend. Unilaterally, just going across the board, and I know that because I have met with other civilian review boards, and last year at the NACOL conference talked to quite a few that do have stipends. Some have ended up with problematic stipends because they've given it at the first of the year and then the person drops. And those that have to do it, then they have to do a monthly stipend, which becomes different for the city as a monthly type of thing. So while I am in agreement that it could help, I'd like to ferret that out a little further before saying, yes, I think this is it, but how do we institute it in a way that ensures that the person who doesn't get say it was whatever, $1,000, but then I have them leave and this person then gets $1,000 and I just don't want to spend the city's money. Yeah.
Ms. Patrick?
I think also, I think it really would have to be well thought out, because also who's going to hold the person accountable? Is it going to be a timesheet? How would they, what if person A comes to every meeting, does all the work, et cetera, but person B hasn't shown up at all? Does that person still get the stipend? Who makes those decisions?
And when?
And when?
Right, do you get the stipend at the end of the year after you have contributed through the year? I'd love to see it ferreted out as well. I think that it is an important thing, and I do think it could be possible.
So, Mr. President. So, a couple things. So I think about. So there are other kind of boards that offer stipend, for lack of a better term. So I think that some of that, we could look at like the success and how we manage those things. But I think overall, like when we're talking about a position such as this, it is a very important position. But including a stipend sometimes allows, not sometimes, but offer up more access to this, because a lot of people in our community might have the heart of volunteer, but don't have the time or the financial means to do so. And a lot of times, as far as representation goes on boards like this, a lot of times that people who are from marginalized communities are the representation that we're seeking, because statistically, those are the people who will be more impacted by some level of misconduct. So it's also kind of knowing our audience, if we will, and then making sure that we're not unintentionally not including access for someone to participate in a board like this because of their current financial situation. Because that can be a deal breaker for someone who has a great heart of that volunteer, but needs to pick up that extra shift at the store or whatever they're working at in order to maintain their lifestyle.
Right. Again, I'm all in at a job description and sort of the idea of meeting those qualifications. We've had a couple of instances in the past year where we've had to remove board members for lack of participation. Right, it is part of the overall thing. I do my best to try to keep them updated as to their attendance and the requirements of the position, but it doesn't help us if we can't meet the role of the organization. So.
Ms. Burke?
No, I just was going to make the same point, Mr. Fry. We do have other boards that give stipends, so we could look at how they manage it. We've had situations where something similar has come up on other boards, so we should be able to manage it if, in fact, a stipend is something that we would end up doing for this particular board.
Absolutely. If there are no other questions or comments, definitely would like to thank Ms. Palmentier. On top of being a volunteer, creating pets per se is not an easy task, and sincerely, this work is very important. I've seen her attend meetings virtually, not as a voting member, but just to ensure that her presence is still felt on meetings, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for
That's a lot of work. That's great.
Thank you for having us. We hope to do that, and if the budget is part of that stipend, we can certainly welcome it. I'm not saying that we wouldn't, just saying as we go forward, it would certainly help getting people to deliver the items needed to the community. I'm just gonna take my little table runner
Okay.
on my way out because, thank you.
Thank you.
There was no action needed with that item, so if there are no further discussion points for the Public Safety Committee, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Can you do finance?
Sure. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight. First of which is the National New York EV Make Ready Program, CE 5002-India Alpha 1769. Lieutenant Baldridge.
Thank you. All right. This is, we have an electric vehicle project going on down at Erie and Union. It's addressed as 112 South College Street. However, it's essentially, if you're looking at Clinton's Ditch, that little triangle lot in front, It's going to be in there. It actually was, I misspoke during our meeting the other day, it was originally closest to Union Street, now has been shifted to basically the tip closer to Burger King. But ultimately, this was a grant from National Grid. Been awarded a very specific number of $327,379.98 for the installation of 4 DCFC charging station plugs in the area I just discussed. Again, there's no match from the city. This is in combination with a couple other grants that we had already put through and been approved on, Department of Energy grant, which is ultimately going to cover other costs. So what this is going to do, what this grant ultimately is going to pay for the upgrade of the service through National Grid due to the large amount of power that's going to be drawn from it. And then the other grant money is going to go towards the equipment and the contractor performing the work.
Any questions or comments, Board Phil?
So is this a city lot?
That's a great question.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
So it's the one that's like when you want to go, if you want to go in the Clinton, it's just kind of like that curving thing.
Yeah, it's the lot between Erie Boulevard and that road that splits in front of Clinton's Itch. It's literally a little wedge, a little triangle.
All right, just wanted to make sure it was a city lot.
And the only other question, I don't expect you to know, is there any comprehensive plan citywide with respect to addressing the EV considerations from the state?
You are correct in that I don't know the answer. This is, to be honest, I'm not exactly 100% sure why the police department is involved in this project. This isn't a police department project. Chief Whipple was asked to look into this, and I don't know if you all know Chief Whipple, but he's an all-star and he doesn't really say no. So he hit the ground running, figured it out, and here we are getting a whole boatload of money to update some EV charging, or provide and update electricity and EV charging stations around the city. He's currently working on one right now to get some chargers outside of the station, but this is not that. This is completely separate.
Yep, so without putting that comment and you on the spot, sincerely, I shared the same thought process of is there a better position or department suited for this type of work? I imagine it is in respect to just some of the staffing concerns throughout the city. City Hall will be specific, but hopefully we can have some discussions around that, budgetarily speaking. Any other questions or comments regarding?
No, it's just regarding that, Mr. Coluccio, who was our sign superintendent, signal superintendent, did the past EV stuff that we got installed. That was something that he was doing, so it's a good point that we should try to figure out if it's, shouldn't be the police department, where should that go?
Regardless of what body of work a person submits. If there are no other questions or comments, I have a motion to...
I'll make the motion to accept this funding.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item on discussion
Thank you.
is a discussion regarding the citywide reevaluation. Ms. McElroy?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. For the course of the time that I have been here at the city, we've gone from an equalization rate at a high of 123% to 60.39% now. Some of it, it's obviously due to the how well the market's been doing, but having an equalization rate that continues to fall at such a dramatic rate is going to cause us some problems in terms of economic stability in the city. I put on the back of the form that I submitted in the packets. There's a bullet point list that kind of describes what happens or what the equalization rate does. But it can affect our bond rating. It certainly has shown an effect on what the county uses, like the city tax rate for county purposes. Because we've fallen at such a dramatic rate, we end up covering the majority of the tax rate compared to our neighbors in the county. So, I kind of, when I was speaking with Ms. Porter last week, we talked about just opening this up for a discussion. It's, it's a big thing to think about, it's an expensive thing to think about, but the market really isn't, the market is still pretty hot, and I don't know that we're gonna see anything changing, or at least it going back up anytime soon without us physically doing something to change that. I'm not really sure, I'm happy to answer questions or talk more about it. There's a lot of information in here. There's a lot of companies that we could go, we can get an RFP from, we can take a look at. I got a quote from someone who said, a city of our size, it would probably cost upwards of $2 million to really get all of the resources. There's different levels. I know that even if we enter into this conversation, the biggest problem or the biggest challenge we have is that our data is really, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the city where people don't get building permits, and so we're not able to capture, changes in bedroom count, bathroom count, square footage of homes. So being able to use an outside company would help. They have more resources than we do in our office, more staff, they do those kinds of things full time. So it's, it would be a benefit to us to really use some of the resources of outside folks.
Ms. Patrick?
So a couple of $1 million perhaps to hire that company to do the reevaluation. Do you have any sense of what we might expect in revenue if we were to do the reevaluation?
And that's, it's tricky. There's really it doesn't really generate revenue in the way that you think. It kind of flip-flops, so tax rates would go down because we're generating higher value in the city. So when it comes to looking at the levy, it's still a matter of tightening purse strings and, in order to get the tax cap, I don't think that that's ever anyone wants to enter into that discussion of trying to go over the tax cap. So but I've heard instances of other places where they don't change the tax rates. So they've taken all the revenue from a reval, but then they force an assessment office or other officials in the municipality to then field questions from folks who want their assessments lowered because tax rates didn't balance that out as they increased assessed value. So, it doesn't really create a whole lot of revenue, but it equalizes everything in the city.
Gotcha.
We've got some areas of the city right now where properties are selling for 200% more than what they're assessed at. And so being able to capture that and show some equity across the board between different neighborhoods is, that's one of the major benefits of doing a reval.
Ms. Porterfield?
So can you actually just tell us a little bit about how you came to do this at this, as we're starting to do this right now, and how long the process would take?
Sure.
I know you mentioned that we talked about it, but I did not initiate it. So just
No,
wanna
that's
make
okay.
that
No,
clear.
it's okay. Well, in conversations with the mayor about our equalization rate every year and how I see the market going forward, we kind of talked about the possibility of me bringing this forward to the council, just to start the discussion and see. It generally takes anywhere from 2 to 4 years because there's a lot of data collection that happens, especially in the first 2 years. And so the last time we did a reval, they started it in 2007 and it went on the books in 2009. But it wasn't, they used outside folks, but they just hired a lot of people to work within the office as opposed to using a company that does it a lot, that has some of those other outside resources. And there were things like, we use these things called property record cards, and unfortunately we found that a lot of the data was just copied from one property record card to another, as opposed to having some field inspections done. Now, it's not possible with a city our size to get out to every single property, but there's a lot of resources. There's pictometry, which is you have a plane flies over the municipality, and then we can take a look at changes that have happened. And then some of the software that they include is Change Finder. So if we do a flyover every year, then they actually draw the outline of properties that have changed year to year, so that we can at least capture that data.
So we haven't done that yet, so right now, if we did that, we wouldn't know what was added on within the last year.
We may, based on the information we have, and taking a look at the properties. Sometimes it's hard to, yes, I would say the easy answer to that question is we may not know, we may not be able to, but looking at codes data, looking at information that we currently have in our office, we've got a lot of, we use the Multiple Listing Service, and there's a lot of other real estate websites out there where we can take a look at properties that have sold in the city. And some of a reval is, collecting that data, but then it's also just looking at sales within each of the neighborhoods and doing some modeling and statistics, and then, kind of finding a center line and using that to determine the values in neighborhoods.
If there are no other questions or comments, I would definitely like to say I appreciate you continuing to push forth this agenda item. I remember you discussing it very confidently and emotionally at the budget hearing as a means forward for our city. So that definitely is appreciated for myself. If you are able to speak to it though, is there an average or an acceptable equalization rate for a municipality, or can you even speak to that? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. 100%. and generally, when you do a reval, you are at 100%. And given some of the resources that outside companies have, we'd possibly be able to stay at 100% going forward because we'd have good data. We'd have the ability to use some of their modeling software and do some work in each of the neighborhoods that we determine when we go through a reval. So yeah, it's really what you want is your equalization rate. You want the assessed value of a home to be equal to the fair market value of the home. So what people are being taxed on is actually what they can go out and get for their property on the market.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Ms. Patrick and Ms. Blue.
So our next step, obviously, we've been asked before to try to go out for the revaluation. Obviously, it would have to be something that would be part of our budget discussions. Is it something that you hope to put into the budget for 2026?
Probably not for this year.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of work we would need to do, prep work that we would need to do. I would suggest that we look at it for next year.
So we're really you're keeping it in front of us.
Yeah, and trying to push it a little bit more, just because I do see the equalization rate continuing to go down.
Yeah.
And it just, I guess, and I think I mentioned this, well, we don't really do a ton of revaluations every year. We try to follow up on permits and those kind of things,
Sure.
But right now, as we revalue a home, say the fair market value is $100,000, we're only taxing it on $60,000. So we're losing out on the potential of some revenue there. I think there's some other extenuating circumstances, just some of the burden falls on the residential taxpayers. We've got, a lot of downtown buildings that have pilot agreements and things like that, so it makes it more difficult. But, and I don't know how that's also something that working with an outside agency, we'd want to know how that would affect some of the pilot agreements if we're changing, because some of them are based on the land value of the property and then a certain percentage of the building itself. And so I don't necessarily know how that works either. So, but yeah, in answer to your question, I wouldn't want to rush anything.
Okay. Thank you.
So.
And then also I'd like to snapshot having discussions at the council table. I imagine there are a lot of different parameters to your job that would be beneficial to a council member. So I hope moving forward, the opportunities to shadow your office would be entertained by the mayor's office. I know for myself, just looking to broaden my understanding so I can make the best informed decision. Ms. Porterfield?
So I wanted a similar question to what Ms. Patrick asked, and what the timeline, so you've answered that. But in terms of, you mentioned that people aren't pulling building permits. So is that something that needs to be focused on? I won't say we, because it's not our that's administrative responsibility. But is that something that we need to focus more on in terms of making sure people are pulling the permits? Is that something that would be helpful?
Yes and yes. I mean, I'm always going to say yes because, it gives us the opportunity to then, we don't always get in the building, but we find out information about the building.
Okay, so that helps you.
Yeah, plus, it's really like a life safety issue. We do, when we come upon things like that, we refer them to the codes office. So then they go out and take a look and see. Sometimes we find out work was done, but it's really just paint. It's nothing that would rise to the occasion of a code, or for us to even possibly entertain a valuation change. But we at least try to refer so that the codes office is aware.
And my other comment, I mentioned this before at the council table, and I'll bring it up again, as we're getting ready to go into budget discussions. I think we really do need to take a look at our pilots. We've heard it's going to be a tough budget, so pilots are pretty substantial in our city. So we should take a look at that. I know that pilots are done through Metroplex, et cetera, but I think we need to take a look at how that impacts our residents, how it impacts the city overall in terms of taxes. And as we're going through this process of budgeting, we take a look at the pilots, how many we have, what they look like and all of that. So I just want to repeat that again. I know it's going to be a difficult and challenging conversation, but one that really needs to happen. You hear about our equalization rate and how things are just impacting our city overall. So I think we have to look at the big picture. Even if we're not doing this until next year, we can look at pilots this year.
Any other questions or comments? So this was no action required. Thank you for the update, Ms. McElroy.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
The last agenda item is Homes American Rescue Plan award. Mr. Brown.
So the Schenectady Tri-Colony Home Consortium received a one-time allocation of HomeArt federal funds in the fiscal year 2021 as part of the American Rescue Plan Act. The consortium has committed $1,700,000 in HomeArt funds to the YWCA of Schenectady, doing business as Northeastern New York, to construct and rehabilitate affordable rental units in the Harbor House project. The project is expected to close on September 24th, 2025, with a proposed construction start date of October 1st, 2025. The City of Schenectady, as a lead entity, does require a resolution to be passed awarding the HomeArt funds in the amount of $1,700,000 to the YWCA.
Thank you, Ms. Porter.
Is this the project that we've also allocated ARPA funds to as well?
Yes, it is.
And this amount of money, is this our portion of the consortium money?
So the Home Consortium is all three of us together, so
Yes.
they award the projects together as well.
So we all awarded it, so there's no other money left?
Yeah, for the HomeArt, yes.
Okay. I thought it was just our portion.
Yeah, I believe there were other projects that were previously awarded as well.
Oh, there were, so this is okay.
So this is just what was already previously allocated specifically for this project, but we are not allowed to award the funds until after all other financials are put in place.
Okay, so now they're ready to go.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
If there are no other items that will follow the Finance Committee, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
So I'd like to open Health and Recreation. We have one item on the agenda. I do want to say we just got the material and legislative request today for this. It was on the agenda that we received the other day, but we just got the material today. So I
Material
know it's
being-
a legislative request, and the background information just came with today's materials. So I know that if we're supposed to have more lead time.
It's not the first time it's ever happened with a legislative
I understand that. I just wanted to point that out. So I'm going to say, let's move ahead, if you'd like to take the floor.
Certainly. So last week, I attended a town hall meeting that was held at SUNY Schenectady, where the conversation was about surgical services being removed from Bellevue Hospital Women's Center, and some of those services being transferred over to Ellis Hospital. The nurses that were there were expressing a lot of concerns around how this can impact people's access to health care. And this is kind of, something that is really going to impact people that live in the city of Schenectady. And I just wanted to make sure that, we as a council had a discussion about this and possibly bring in a resolution in support of leaving the surgical services at Bellevue's Women's Center.
So, I don't have to raise my hand.
No, you don't.
I'd like to say that I'm not in support of having that kind of a resolution. I think that we really need to continue to understand that Ellis has been having financial issues, and I respect that the doctors and the administrators who are in charge there, which is of course a private company, have made this decision as a way to bring in more efficiencies, make sure that they're following as much cost reduction as they can. It's my understanding that no services will be lost. The women's health services will continue at Bellevue. Neither of them are being used to capacity at this point, so I think Ellis is really making this decision in order to try to bring more efficiencies to the operation overall of Ellis Hospital. So for me, the bottom line is that, and I know we've had these discussions in the past when we had to, make the decision about, we came to the table about McCollin. I don't want to lose Ellis Hospital. I think that would really be a problem for the residents of Schenectady to not have a hospital. And so I would support the decision-making of the people in charge at Ellis to, support that they need to do this in terms of efficiencies. Oh, Ms. Porterfield.
So for me, you framed it as the dollars and cents, and I like to frame it in terms of the health of the patients who use all women at Bellevue who use these services. So we understand that there's financial implications. However, people's health is also impacted by this, and there's certain communities who, if they're not have the ability to get the services locally, then getting to someplace else becomes a challenge. And I also want to point out that when this started, it was we're not going to impact Bellevue. There's things that we're not going to do that are now happening. And as this began with Ellis, or actually it's now really Trinity that's over all of this. As this was happening, we keep seeing fewer and fewer services being offered or cut back. You can't get dental at Ellis anymore. I don't know if you know that. So now that pushes all of that over to a place where currently they have like a 6-month waiting list. So we are talking about impacting individuals' health. And I want to separate it from our prior conversation when we talked about staffing. So I'd like us to look at this in terms of the health of the individuals who will be impacted by this. And while we talk about how the administrators and the doctors make all these decisions, we were at the press conference that was called by NYSDA, the New York State nurses. And there's more nurses in the hospital than there are doctors. So the nurses are talking about how this impacts them. So I think we should also listen to the folks who are on the ground every day, many of them, and how this is impacting. We understand that the administrators get to make the decision, but the people who are impacted on a day-to-day, their voice also should be heard. And for them, this is a major concern. And I'm concerned about it as well. About the kind of services that they want to cut back as we see. And we should also look at what this particular agency has done with other hospitals across the state. So I'm supportive of this because we're talking about people's health and health concerns, and you can't always make that about dollars and cents.
I think, though, that none of the women's health services that are happening at Bellevue are going to be affected. They still will be maintained at Bellevue. They also, mammography, all the maternity services, other women's health services are going to be remaining at Bellevue, as well as if someone needed to have an emergency C-section, if someone needed to have a life-saving emergency surgery, that would remain at Bellevue. Well,
I'm just going to say that's not what we were told.
I think we're hearing from different folks.
Well,
so again, I also want to say that I don't think it's the responsibility of the city council to necessarily be passing a resolution about the hospital. So that's also what I feel. But I think the bottom line that we all have to keep in mind is we have to make sure that Ellis remains open.
So my
Mr. Fowler?
Certainly. So a few things. I guess my question to you is that where did you get that information? Because some of the information that you stated earlier, I don't believe in the beginning was accurate. So I'm trying to figure out maybe where did you get that information? Because I do agree, you've probably been talking to different people. So where did you get that information?
I got the information from leadership at Ellis.
Okay. Then that,
And I also would
that
like to
makes
suggest
sense.
that I'm sure we could probably invite folks to come in and talk to us as well.
I'm always open, like even now, I'm always open to hearing from folks to help us make an informed decision. In that information, did they let you know that there would be 14 nurses' jobs being laid off as a result of this?
What I've heard is that the 14 individuals were offered jobs at Ellis at equal or greater salaries than they actually were currently making. So, and some of them have left and gone to other places, but yeah, that's
what you were told.
Mhm.
Okay, so the thing is that some of those positions are very specialized positions, and I don't know how, when the last time that you've been to Ellis, and I don't know if you're aware that
I have had to go to Ellis.
right. So
Yes.
yeah. So I think I don't know if you're aware that we have some of the longest wait times in the state are right here in the Capital District. So the information and what we were told and was really highlighted was the fact that the consolidation of services there to an already overburdened, understaffed facility can have really dire consequences for people who are there to seek these sometimes very life-threatening complications. So I highly doubt that the people who often we talk in this space about listening to the staff and the people and here in City Hall and offering them a level of deference because they have the close proximity to the work that they do. I don't think that there's anyone who has more close proximity than the nurses and the specialized nurses who have been and worked in the Women's Center, some of them for well over 15 years, who have a very clear issue and were outlining it really clear to us. So I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that we often give a level of deference to people based on their proximity to an issue when we do it in-house here, and I would think that they would deserve that same level of deference. In fact, even more. I think that we have to. It's not when you say that we shouldn't be making decisions about a hospital. It's not really the decision we're making. The decision I'm bringing this forward because of the impact that it has on the people that live in the city of Schenectady. If this was a decision that was based on what type of food that they want to have in the vending machines, I definitely wouldn't be bringing this forward, even though I do have strong opinions on snacks. I would just say that the people that, when this is something that can be life or death situation for the women, especially low-income women from marginalized community in the city of Schenectady, we can't ignore that there's that through line and our obligation to make sure that we're advocating for them. That's what I would say.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I think there's an important designation to make that Ms. Porterfield captioned slightly the truth that Ellis, in what we know of it to exist in our community, no longer exists, and that amid these merger discussions, there are two entities, but one of those is going to convert to the other. And in this respect, that is Trinity Health Systems and St. Peter's Health Partners, which is a functioning under that. So I think it's our responsibility as a community to understand what that means and what that means for our residents. I'm glad you referenced previous discussions around Ellis Hospital with respect to staffing. We had an opportunity as a council to support legislation to empower or influence those discussions for the nurses, and we have seen, for whatever reason, that those conditions are getting worse. We are now presented with another opportunity to advocate for the remaining of services within this facility that saw birth my daughter, my youngest daughter. And as we've heard from that meeting and that event at SUNY Schenectady, there's cause for more concern that those services will not be present. And I know that we have two different sources of information. I would happily welcome a special meeting where both parties were invited because as elected officials within the city of Schenectady, I sincerely believe it is our utmost responsibility to hear these concerns, with an open and responsive ear, and knowing that we have to use these positions to benefit the residents of the community. And I do believe this is well within our purview, and I think we're starting to see these types of discussions promoted more with sincerity to the understanding of community schools, and that if we leave these types of decisions to one agency, that is when we do ourselves a disservice. I think it is as we remain responsive and continue to receive information, I think we should welcome these types of conversations. But I agree, having both entities present and capturing that in a framework that includes us all at the table, I think that is important, and I would happily support that.
Yeah. Mr. Farley?
Yeah, I would just add that, I think as we're listening and gathering information, we also have to look at, what, the intentions are, and really the messenger matters on this, like what, someone's intention is and or how they're making calculations. And I think that in this entity right now has made some decisions that might be really based on revenue and other parts of the state that have really impacted communities, and especially low-income communities and communities of color in particular. And based on that, I think that we really want to look at how are people making their decisions. And me personally, I'm going to make decisions based on not only kind of leaving things at a baseline, but increasing access to healthcare for women in the city of Schenectady. And I respect that this is a private company. I respect that they have, their quotas to meet, if you will. However, I'm always going to make sure that I'm making the decisions based on people over profits. And I think that they have demonstrated that they make their decisions not in line with that, based on previous decisions that they've made.
I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on that last point, because I definitely think that the folks are interested in and concerned about the health of people in this community. And I think in particular, the fact that the services will remain at Bellevue in terms of women's health services, that's, basically showing a concern for women's health. However, I also have to say that, again, we have to respect the fact that we want to make sure that this hospital remains open. And we know that they've been having fiscal stress. We know that the issues that are happening in DC around Medicaid and Medicare are going to just bring more financial instability to hospitals around this country. So I think I remain, in my mind, in my viewpoint, I need to continue supporting that hospital will stay open. So that's where I'm coming from. So do you want to move forward with the Ms. Porterfield?
So just,
Sorry, my back is too.
for clarity's sake, you said that the services are going to remain. So they're saying there's going to be surgical cuts. So what is your understanding of the cuts that will be made?
Well, what I'm saying is that the women's health services that are in happening around mammography, other women's health services, those are going to be remaining at Bellevue. If there was emergency surgery that needed to happen at Bellevue, that too would happen at Bellevue. But otherwise, yes, they're consolidating the other. We all know that that's what they're doing, right? They're having to move the rest of their surgeries. They're having to consolidate to try to be more efficient from a cost perspective. It's not my area of expertise, so I can't speak specifically about that. But that's my understanding of what's happening. Did you have a comment that you wanted to make, Mr. Mancini?
Well, I would like to hear from both parties. I'd hate to see Bellevue Women's Health Center, that's where I was born.
It's gotta stay.
Lose capacity, but I would like to hear more about what does that mean, maintain full surgical services. I don't know enough about the cuts to make a determination. I'd like to hear a little bit more information, but I do support us doing something in support of Bellevue Women's Health Center that I could get on board with if I have some more information.
Mr. Farley?
So my question was just, you said earlier that that the folks are committed to, I don't want to paraphrase, but I was just trying to figure out, those folks, are you talking about administration at Ellis right now?
Yeah, physicians and doctors, physicians and administrators, yeah.
Okay, so for that
And
work.
the nurses, I'm not saying that the nurses
Oh,
aren't.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting anything new that you're saying that. I guess what I'm trying to figure out, have you spoken to anyone from Trinity Healthcare or just the administrative? Okay.
So shall we bring the discussion to a close here?
Well, I think that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Just, hearing the comments from the council members, there's only 2 members of your committee here
Right.
tonight. Mr. Farley, if you don't, as you know, if it doesn't pass out of committee tonight, which sounds like it won't, you can get a co-sponsor to bring in the legislation to the full council on Monday night, as long as the resolution is before the city clerk by noon on Thursday. But we have to go through whether you want to make the motion now. If it fails, then it ends. Or if you wish to have this brought up on the discussion at a next meeting, it's up to you. If you want to move forward with the resolution, it's going to fail because you're not going to get a second. However, there's the mechanism under 2821 of the city code that allows you to get a co-sponsor who's not a member of the committee, then it can be brought up before the full council on Monday night. So it's up to what you want to do.
Thank you.
Because I'm overly optimistic that Ms. Patrick is going to side with the city of Schenectady as far as these medical services. So I'll make the motion.
Yes, say something.
I'm not going to second it.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So the motion fails because of the lack of a second, but as I indicated to you, Mr. Farley, if you want to get a co-sponsor with another council member, you can do so, and then bring the legislation before the council, a full council on Monday night.
Okay. I would like to, I think, maybe hearing from some more people, I think that maybe you'll be able to make a more informed decision. So I also, in between time, kind of encourage, see what we could do around that, because this is quite frankly, I thought would support. So
Okay, so.
So if you can, and just be advised that you can always bring it at the next meeting or any subsequent council meeting. Okay?
Certainly.
Okay? So,
thank you.
all right.
So is there any other business to come before Health and Recreation? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to adjourn Health and Recreation. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, thank you.
I'd like to call to order City Development and Planning. We have 9 items on the agenda.
Mr. Hudson?
Oh, government ops. Almost skipped over it. I guess I'm like, there you go. I'm sorry.
I'd like to call to order government operations. We have one item on the agenda today, that is the selection process of the City Housing Stability Task Force. Mr. Mancini.
All right, so I sent out a draft application, and I'll go over the selection process that I'd like to propose. Again, the structure is 9 members. All members will be volunteer. 1 city council member will serve as chair. Remaining 8 will be appointed by the council, and they are to represent tenants, a landlord, someone from local government,
Okay.
and we should have this memorized by now.
It's 30.
Nonprofit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, tenants, landlords, I'm sorry, developers, housing advocates, nonprofit representatives, and legal professionals. So what I'm proposing is that we do a public call for applications, reach out to housing advocates, nonprofits, and neighborhood associations. We've had folks email us with emails of interest, so we could send them an application. And then once we receive the applications and have a date by, we can pick a date, whatever we agree on. I'm thinking once we send it out, we give 2 weeks to respond. And then we review the applications and ensure that we have a broad representation of the outlined groups.
So looking through the list, my first question is why we're having developers as a part of this discussion.
That was on the resolution for developers, that those that may be impacted and getting their, perception of would good cause impact their view of the city, their plans to move forward with developments of apartment units. I know after a certain day they're exempt, but developers that are already here and that may be impacted by that, to hear from them.
Well, I have a couple concerns. Let me just say, I don't think the developers, I don't think this would be a forum or a task force that I think that they should be on, quite frankly, and just say how I feel it. And additionally, so we've listed 6, including developers, and not including the council members, so that's 9 seats. And so right now we have 7, and so that means just 2 more people. So I'm concerned with the number of 9. I'm concerned that this board would be kind of lopsided and more with people who are not as impacted. So I would say there may be room for 1, maybe 2 tenants. So we've heard the voice of the tenants, and so I have concern that 9 is a low number for this particular task force. First of all, so I would like for us to really kind of look at that and really look at the value of having developers per se as part of this particular task force. Additionally, it said that the first meeting can be called by at least 1 council member, and I think if a council person is going to chair this, then the meeting should be called by whoever chairs this, as opposed to just 1 person. Even within our code, in terms of a special council meeting is called, it takes at least 2 people to do that.
I'm going to say, the chair and or vice chair. I think on the task force, we should designate a vice chair and a secretary.
Okay.
Once you do the interviews and then ask if folks volunteer to be a vice chair and a secretary to keep notes and minutes.
Okay. So you're looking at changing that language?
Yes.
In the application, I kind of briefly went through it. They have to be a city resident.
Yes.
Unless
they work for an agency that is doing a nonprofit inside the city.
So a nonprofit inside the city, not a volunteer group,
No.
but an actual nonprofit
That serves the city.
that serves the city.
So that's one part I think that we should look at as well. Like, I think that the people that are obviously going to be mostly impacted by this are going to be people that live in the city. So I think that people should have to live in the city to serve in the city. Even if you work at a nonprofit that serves in the city, I still think that you should have to live in the city, and I think that that kind of opens it up to a broader conversation around that we don't need to have now, but like around like nonprofits and who they're hiring and do they represent the clients and the population that they're serving.
Sure.
So that's something
Somebody else that.
I guess I would have to say that I'm okay with the nonprofit if it's, let's say, for example, if it's the executive director of a nonprofit, that's a housing-related nonprofit, that person might not live in the city. I mean, I think we need, and I also don't have a problem with the developers, because I think what we're looking for, along with having, of course, residents, tenants, is, we need the developers would be bringing their professional expertise around the buildings that they build. For apartments, whether it's homeless, shelters for homeless individuals. I think that it's okay that there'd be a developer that might be able to speak from their place of expertise around those types of structures. So I don't have a problem with a developer being on it, and I don't have. I think that I can only base that on my own lived experience. I remember once in one of my previous roles in the city, I was the only person who lived in the city at one of the organizations I worked for, and I thus was the person put onto a community group that I think there might have been other people. You know, I did my best at representing our organization, but you know, there might have been people with other forms of expertise, but they just didn't live in the city. So with the nonprofits, I don't know. I mean, I don't know because we've got to make sure we involve the appropriate nonprofit, I think, whether it's Bethesda House or SCAP or, you know, I don't know, Habitat for Humanity. I don't know where the folks live, you know, that are on the staff. So I think I'd be okay with that.
I guess I would say to that is that, again, hopefully the nonprofits, especially nonprofits that we are supporting with city funding, have enough of an investment in the city they see people that live in the city as part of a viable workforce. So hopefully that they would have representation of people that live in the city that work at these nonprofits. If not, that's, again, that'd be troubling to me in its own. Second of all, there's different ways and capacities that people can serve. So in other words, a developer could come into the task force and present all of their expertise, all of their information, but then you would still leave the decisions up to the people that live within the city. So they don't need to have a spot on the task force in order to contribute to the task force if they sincerely have an area of expertise and genuinely want to help the task force make a more informed decision. So to me, that's where I would be holding the line that way people need to live in the city.
Because I agree with the, you know, developers could be part of the solution. So on some level, be engaged in the conversation.
And I could support them coming in that way, but however, I will say again that I don't see them having a seat on the task force. I think it leans in a certain direction, but providing the information, the framework, this data that we say we need now, for them to do that, but not to be as part of the group that makes the ultimate decision, because you know, we all have different perspectives on this. And again, we're framing this because this came around because of good cause, whether we want to say it or not. I'm going to say it. Okay? So let's just make sure that we're sticking to what good cause is really about and not try to bring in all these groups who may sway the decision in a direction that maybe makes it more favorable for them.
So the 2 points that I wanted to make is, well, actually 3. First of which, I valued the form that you put forth, Mr. Mancini. I thought that was a good product. I agree with the 2 comments made around developers, so I won't repeat that. My 2 additional comments were just under the official charters of the task force, those 3 points, or the 2 points, the question that I have is, what new information are you seeking from this task force? Because sincerely, in all sincerity, this was the information that I would have expected each of us as council members to review and investigate on our own before arriving to a reasoning with respect to good cause, which is in this legislation. So we cannot avoid that correlation. But if you can answer what new information you're expecting, because also this is asking for public forums, which we had, and then one was shot down, for lack of better words. But then also, I wanted to just highlight, I would like to get something put into writing that we will approve the findings of this task force once submitted. Because what I would hate to happen is we go through all these links and go through all these efforts, and we have just seen, in a different regard, the difficulties with getting volunteers to actively contribute on a continuous basis. So I'd like to ensure that whatever information that they put forth, it is not only factual, but is information that we're going to action on. Because to me, we are transitioning our responsibility as a council to act, and asking that there's another agency that steps forth to, for lack of better words, do the work that we're supposed to do on our own. So I can understand that this is where we're at as a council. I want to ensure that we are not wasting the city's time and the residents' time, who this matter has clearly mattered, as we've heard countless times, to just continue to kick this football around.
Well, I think that the task force can make the recommendations, and has to be mindful of that the recommendations are binding, and then they can proceed with resolutions to affect those recommendations. We come up with strategies where your groups involve basically landlords, our local landlords, and our tenants. And there's the good cause law. Well, here are the evictions, here are strategies we can implement to reduce those evictions. Federally, with the rental assistance programs have been cut from at a federal level, so this is becoming even larger as a problem. I met with Connor from Albany last week, and real concerning information but he gave me some really good information, a lot of good strategies that we can implement. If we don't have agreement on good cause, then I think we can come to agreement on good strategies. And that, I think, can impact what we're trying to do. If it's good cause or nothing, and that's what people are thinking, then you're right. We probably shouldn't come together and do any work. But if it's what we really want, is to let's come up with some solutions that reduce evictions for those most in need, then it's ineffective, and I don't see there'll be any problem with implementing those strategies. I think if we can demonstrate what's worked, short of good cause, what we haven't done, the majority of evictions are for non-rental, and that falls on the good cause. That's not going to make any bit of difference, but maybe we can come up with ways to come up with tenant assistance programs, or look for grants, look for other options. That's something that we can do that we haven't done. I think there are a lot of options that we can take and strategies we can employ to reduce that number. I mean, we can say we can't, or we can say we can. That's up to us. So that's where I want to proceed.
So I just want to clarify, you said that the recommendations from this task force would be binding?
Well, I don't have the authority to say.
Oh, okay.
No.
Because our
We can look at strategies.
Okay.
And part of that work will be, is this something we can do?
Yeah, no, they would not be.
That's right. It would just be recommendations,
Right.
and the council can accept or
Right.
not accept those recommendations. There could
Okay.
be 10 recommendations, you could accept 5,
Right.
for example.
I just want to make that clear to all of us and everybody that may be listening. All right, so going back to the people the individuals that would be on this task force. And so we have the chair, I'm going to point at you. And then so that means that we have other spots. Are we going to put a number on how many people from each group could be there? I mean, how do you decide that?
Yeah. I think looking at the applications, who we receive, and what is not on there is anybody from city government.
You.
Well, maybe from the Department of Development.
I think that's important.
And then rate the applications and which group that we, based on the applications, bring that level of expertise. If we have a couple in that, or tenants, I think tenants.
So, right now we have 5, I'm taking developers off. We have 6 with the chair, okay? So that leaves 3 more seats. And you're saying that you would base who filled those seats based on the applications received as opposed to based on the categories?
We could decide that. We pick the 9 that we need, because we may, these categories may be missing somebody or someone that would be a good addition. Someone that has expertise in this area that we're missing that isn't in one of these categories.
And how would you choose that person if they're not in the category?
Based on the application and where their experience and their body of work. Say they were past involved in this or some advocacy agency.
Okay, so we're not holding to these categories, is that? Because
We have had representatives from this category.
And then
we're going to go over. We
some-
can look at, rate them and say, and this is what we need.
And then some extra, then the
And
3 other seats are based on applications? Is that what you're saying?
Based on, is this a good fit for the task force? Is this individual looking at their experience and their body of work, or we can keep it into the categories, a couple. But I think that we might be missing, if we're missing something and it stands out, and the committee looks at this individual could contribute to this task force, not limit it to this. If we're taking out developers, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Plus the city, 6.
6, right?
When I say the city, I'm sorry, I mean the city council, 6. And then you said the city, 7.
So I would suggest that we have 2 tenant and 2 landlord representatives. Because that's the most effective group, affinity group in there. So we have 2 from each.
That makes sense to me, if we are staying at 9.
Well, how would we go higher? Can we just?
We would amend our resolution if we would go higher, so.
I mean, I'm open. This is, I want to get this started if I.
Oh, absolutely.
Ms. Patrick?
Well, I think that we could definitely, if we wanted to do 3 tenants, 3 landlords, I think we can make those kinds of changes, amendments to the original resolution. I mean, I think that's what we're trying to do here, is kind of suss out what we see as the best.
For me, again, the only thing I think that is, not the only thing, but one of the things I think is really important is that who's ever serving on this task force lives in the city of Schenectady. I think that that is really an integral part of the process. So, Mr. Mancini, are you open to considering that as well? Like making sure that whoever serves on the task force lives in the city?
How about we give priority? If we don't have somebody from a nonprofit.
Okay. I see what you're
That
saying.
isn't directly involved in eviction and an eviction process.
Okay, so you're saying give priority, not necessarily a. Okay, let me think about that for a minute.
So let's try to have a level of consistency here. We just heard that someone could not sit on the CPRB, even though they're a member of the agency that's named in there, because they did not reside in the city. And I think that applies to almost all of our boards, that they don't. So why are we going outside of what we do for every other committee that we have, every other commission that we have that says you must reside in the city? And even, so I think that we should take a look at that. We just, NAACP, it's written in the ordinance, in the city code rather, but the person who came forward from the agency within the city resided outside the city, and we said no. The mayor's office said no. So let's try to have some level of consistency in how we deal with who's going to be representing this task force, which will have an impact upon the city.
Mr. Williams.
We have a little over 60,000 people in the city of Schenectady, and I'm confident we can find 9 people that live within the city that can academically, and then with their experience, lived experience and professional experience, weigh in on this discussion. I'm in agreement with the expectation that you live in the city you set forth.
Geez, if our voting members are reflective of that, applicants will actually get.
We're doing it for everything else, I'll reiterate.
I'm okay with that. And if it doesn't, and we don't get a good representative from, any applicants, we may have to go outside and recruit.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
I'm okay with it as long as we have the key nonprofits at the table.
Who's the key nonprofits though?
Well, actually, I can think of more than 3, so it depends on the number that you put in that
And
category.
if there's, again, to Monty's point, if there's someone that doesn't live in the city, we can always have them come in. and
That's right,
represent.
that's absolutely right.
And
Or just,
draw on there.
because the meetings will be open to
Right.
anybody.
Yeah.
To Mr. Mancini's earlier point, and I believe President Porterfield as well, that this did, come out of good cause, and the entire time I brought good cause forward, I acknowledge that good cause isn't the only solution. I think that that's important, and we recognize that there's other solutions. However, good cause does offer certain protections that some of the other solutions might not, offer. So I want to just kind of like be mindful of that good cause isn't the end all be all, but there are some core things that happen with good cause that would leave people unprotected if we didn't consider that. As well as this doesn't have to result in good cause based on the findings of the task force. It doesn't have to, but I want to make sure that we're not taking that off the table if the findings come forth and say support, if the data supports it.
And I think maybe the timing around it, we can have some of the jurisdictions that have opted in what their experience is, and maybe hear from them.
Next step.
What are the next steps? You want to take those?
Make changes in the language, and then we can send out applications, post applications and notice.
So are we?
You're okay with the resolution at this time? At this point, you're just looking at the application. You're not changing anything as far as the membership per se, are you? Or you may, Mr. Mancini, you may want to circulate that with your colleagues based on the conversations here tonight and see if everybody's on board. And then, if necessary, and if everybody's on board, send it to the Corporation Counsel's office and we'll review the proposed application with the resolution and see if anything further needs to be done.
So, Mr. O'Brien, do we need to also, the guidelines that Mr. Mancini is proposing, and then the changes that we talked about, do we need to make those changes as well?
Yeah, what you all talked about and the original document that he submitted to you, and then the amendments here tonight.
Okay.
If that can be cleaned up, circulated, everybody's okay with that, and then once that's okay, we will then review it to the legislation and make a determination whether it needs to be put in a resolution form for Monday night. If that's okay with the council members.
Yeah, that's okay with me. So are we looking based on that to bring it back, or we're going to make those changes in the meantime?
I think because everybody's interested in getting this moving along as quickly as possible, I think if it's circulated and everybody's okay with it, then we will put it on Monday's agenda as agreed to by the council members.
So, Mr. O'Brien, let me just be clear. We passed the resolution that we're going to establish this committee. So we have to now pass a resolution for every single thing that's going to happen throughout?
No, that's what I'm saying. We don't have to do that. I just want to make sure whatever was agreed to is in conformance with the resolution that you passed the last few weeks ago. So if it's within the four corners of that document, no legislative action has to be done.
Except the resolution did include developers, is what Mr. Mancini said, and that now we're looking at removing that. So is that going to? Let's see. It doesn't. Is it specific?
No,
it's not.
No, I think.
Yeah. It did say developers.
It hasn't.
Yeah, it specifically said
I
developers.
would like input that's in this.
And the second whereas.
Yeah, pass.
Last sentence of the second whereas.
But it's, would like input. Which you're going to get, you're going to get input once they have those committees, and because we'd like input from stakeholders, so therefore the developers would have input as part of the committee going around and task force going around and getting information. Yeah, I mean, what it says here, that the Housing Stability Task Force is established with 9 volunteer members, and including 1 member of the City Council. So that's where it's it's specific as to the membership. So right now, it's just saying you'd like to get in, the task force would like to get information from developers and other individuals. So that's
So the fact that there's input would satisfy how we're talking about their input would happen?
Right.
Okay,
So you'd like, yes.
okay.
Yep.
What about the language around having to reside in the city of Schenectady? Or is that just kind of a matter of practice that we do with all of our, I guess, with our committees? Or is it?
I think that it says here, would like input from stakeholders, including landlords that own property in the city, tenants that live in the city, and housing that serve the city's residents. So what you're dealing as far as this application is that they have to be residents of the city, which broadly you're talking about here in the resolution.
Okay.
So sort of, you're looking to keep it in residents, because it says right here, would like input from state, including and tenants that live in the city.
The way this reads, a landlord who owns property, many landlords who own property live outside the city.
Right, but I think the criteria, what you're looking for the people, the 9 people that you're looking for are residents.
Right,
So
yes, we are.
Right, so that's fine. I mean, the way I'm looking at it, because you can do that. It's when you're keeping it residents, you're making that makeup of tenants, organizations, you're going to get input from a broader part of the community, and the application is, you're saying residents.
Okay.
And that's not different than any other committee that we have. We don't have to. Okay.
That's not, and like I said, circulate it amongst yourselves, and then once it's okay, we'll take another look at it to see whether it needs to have a small resolution done on it.
Well, if we're going to change anything at all, then honestly, if we're going to change things, then what would be the person not changing the language to have people that reside in the city? If we're going to be making some changes anywhere else, just do it, just so it's done as clean as possible.
Mr. O'Neill, Mr. Ryan is not saying to change the resolution.
No, I'm saying that he's saying circulate the ideas.
Yeah, that's
so,
one
so, so saying in the
And the circulation of ideas.
if we end up changing something, then let's make sure that we change that to if we end up changing something. Just all.
So I think right now, it's within the 4 corners of the document. However, I really will need to take one look at it again.
I think in the application that we're putting out, it should say that.
Yeah. Okay, that could be a matter of process. Okay, but okay. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns, or not just comments around that, Madam President?
So I just want to keep track of the timeline that we're going to have here. We initially said that this is going to be 120 days, but I'm guessing that this time of convening the task force, the representatives on the task force is not included in the 120 days, Mr. Mancini, is that correct?
Deliver a report within 120 days of its first meeting.
Okay, so
The clock starts at the first meeting.
So what's our timeline in terms of getting this task force established with people on board?
Well, let's do 30 days. That's 2 weeks, we're going to send out the application, or 2 weeks, so 30 days.
30 days?
Yeah.
To establish and have the first meeting?
Okay, with that being said, we'll do a resolution.
I knew that was coming.
Okay, we'll do 30 days, because now you're setting a benchmark, and so, okay, so now we'll do a resolution.
Okay. To include?
30 days benchmark, and just we'll look at how everything has been changed here this evening. We'll put that into the resolution too, since you're putting a benchmark right now. It's a broad 120 days. Now you're giving them marching orders, 30 day, a start point. So we need to put that in. It's a follow up.
I think that we should do that because we said 120 days, and then people have expectations of when we're going to be doing what we said we're going to do.
Right. Okay. So So we'll take a motion, motion to amend along those lines.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to amend.
So with regard to, so when we write this, is the thought with regard to the nonprofits, since they are going to have people who live in the city, is it going to be people that specifically work at the nonprofits, or an appointed representative from the nonprofit that lives in the city?
Anyone that serves on the board needs to live in the city.
Right, but in
That's what I'm
terms of the not-for-profits that will be represented,
No, it will be for even a nonprofit has to have a city resident on it.
Everyone has.
right, but is it that they appoint, that they put forth a person?
They
Or
work
they work for them?
Yeah,
Different.
Right. They work for the organization.
They work for the organization.
Right.
Okay.
Because we're looking for a certain level of expertise.
Okay, I just want to make sure we get it right.
Gotcha. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I'm on, yeah, we're on the same,
Okay.
I think we're all on the same page.
Well, I mean, I will say, sorry. I mean, again, if it was Habitat for Humanity, you know, one of the homeowners could be appointed. I'm not saying that they would, but I'm just saying that person, you know, you might want to be open to whether the nonprofit, I don't know.
Can I just, can we just like center on Habitat for Humanity? Isn't their goal to make homeowners, and we're really talking about renters?
True. I just thought, well, no, because again, don't forget that the task force is not just about good cause eviction. The task force is supposed to be looking at housing stability in the city of Schenectady. So it's the broader issue of housing that this task force is going to be looking at. So, for example, any of those organizations and nonprofits, I mean, they would all be concerned with housing stability. I mean, and so, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not just about renting.
Yes, so,
This
but-
task force is not just about renters. So we have to remember that.
Well, I think we should remember where we started, because, and let's not ever lose sight of that, because I feel like we're going far afield of what the initial intention was, to do something, we weren't doing good cause, but to do something that addressed the issues that good cause brings forward. So I think we should not lose sight of that.
So,
Well,
for my point of clarity is that if we're asking people from the nonprofit to be involved in the task force, that's based on their level of expertise on the issue. So my thing is, whoever they're assigning to the task force just has to live in the city of Schenectady like any of our other things. And I guess, Mr. Mancini, this would be kind of something for you to kind of shed some light on. Because the task force was kind of birthed out of the conversations around good cause, we don't want to make it so that it's everything. Because if it's everything, it's nothing, right? Like, so I just kind of, maybe if you could provide a little bit, I mean, based on the resolution, like maybe we should look at the resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the resolution, and it really is dealing with local housing trends, eviction filings, and rent burdens and vacancy rates. And it does, in light of such review and public input, reporting with 120 days, and we're going to say 30 days from next week, we'll have their first meeting, correct? Is that what we're talking about? And then the potential impact of good cause eviction recommended. So it's really focused not on home ownership. I'm just looking at the resolution. It's dealing with tenants.
It is not, you said?
It's not dealing
Right.
with, it's not dealing with, home ownership. It's dealing with rental.
Possible solutions to tenant protection.
Right.
So Habitat,
I read it differently.
Right.
okay, so Habitat wouldn't be in that case. So, all right, so, Ms. Patrick?
Well, I mean, I supported this. I really thought it was going to look overall at housing issues and housing stability within the city, as it says in the background information. The task force is to consider strategies to improve housing stability in the city of Schenectady.
Yeah,
And
but
just-
with the charging document, what they are charged with is conducting a local review of local housing trends, eviction filings, rent burdens, and vacancy rates. That's the charge.
So, you know, and it says across the housing spectrum in the third bullet. I don't know. I mean, I really
Yeah.
want to get at, I really thought that this was going to have a broader focus, but
Mr. Williams?
I thought home ownership would be part of it.
I think what's clear is that just in the manner in which this was presented to the council, it was extremely rushed. And in that degree of urgency, there were misunderstandings, which we are now trying to capture amid having two council members not here. So although I was not in support of this task force moving forward, I would hope there are no continued delays, because although the work that they're being directed to perform is questionable to my standards, it is still important, and there's a value to it. So I think we have to get this started, if this is what is presented in front of us. And I believe the conversation we had here tonight was very productive. And then I would hope that this yields positive impacts for the community.
And we'll do, and then we'll do an amendment to this resolution just to clarify that this task force will have its first meeting 30 days from Monday night,
Or when the mayor signs it.
or when the mayor signs it. And that'll be their first name. In 120 days, will, just to be clear, will be added on to that 30.
Right, correct.
All right.
And the residency piece will be a more operational piece of the application.
Is if, if you want to have residents,
Yep.
that if the residents, priority shall be given to residents of the city to sit on this board. Whether they represent a nonprofit and they're a resident of the city, and they represent a nonprofit and they're a resident of the city.
Yeah, that they could represent whatever they want, but they need to live in the city.
All 9 members.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Thank you. With that, I'll call to adjourn.
Excuse me, sir. You have to second that. He's not on the committee.
Yeah, okay.
You have to second it.
You know what? Being the task force, like, come on, you're in this. Okay. I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Madam President. Appreciate that. Okay. You're going to be on the committee now. All right, so let's adjourn government operations. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you. I will call to order city development and planning. And our first, we have 9 items on the agenda, and the first item is to authorize the issuance of a revocable permit number 690 to Grand Salon Hair Studio for a sign that will overhang the city's right-of-way on the face of the building at 98th Street, Schenectady, New York. Welcome, Mr. Waller.
Hi. This is a sign overhanging the right-of-way at 98th Street. It's for a salon in a newly renovated building.
So can you just kind of give me where the salon is? I know it's like this long. Where exactly?
The building?
Yeah.
It's the building that was across from the former Daly's restaurant on the corner of that and the alleyway.
Oh, okay.
It is a brick 2-story building that was just refurbished, and I believe it's going to be at the corner entrance.
Oh, okay, so that's that little elevator that takes you out to J Street?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Any questions?
I'll move it.
I'll second. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wallen. Okay, the next item is just a reminder of the proposed 2025-26 HUD Annual Action Plan public hearing, which is to be held on August 25th. So do any motions for this?
No, you're all set.
Are we all set for that?
Yep.
All right. The remainder of the items have to do with property and property sales. So I would ask for a motion to recess.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. We're in recess.
So I'd like to call to order the Claims Committee. We have one item on the agenda tonight. It is a tax consortium filing of 1 Broadway Tower. I believe that is an item that needs to be discussed in executive session. So we have a motion to enter executive session. Second. All those in favor? Aye. We are in executive session.